Mike is here.
Jay Levin. Irwin.
Here.
Roger's here. Mina.
I'm here.
Okay, and then for the record, due to the governor's statewide disaster declaration relating to the COVID-19 pandemic and current public health guidelines for social distancing, I've determined that it is not prudent for the members of the Economic Development Commission, EDC, or staff to convene in person for this morning's meeting. Therefore, the members of the EDC are attending this meeting by video conference. Those same conditions require barring access to the public for in-person attendance. In light of these limitations, the public is invited to attend and listen to the meeting through Zoom platform or by phone as indicated on the meeting agenda. To comply with the Open Meetings Act requirements for virtual meetings, this morning's meeting is being recorded. Now we're legal, so more or less. Minutes of the last meeting. Any comments or? I had a little back and forth with Pam about this, and I've taken out the detail that Pam had. It was extensive about Brian and what he shared with us. My idea being that it would be worth actually making that into a separate document that could be sent to all the trustees so that it wouldn't get lost in the crush of other things, or that they'd be more likely to read and appreciate what I think was a really worthwhile presentation about economic development in this area. But if people feel otherwise, we can plug that back into the minutes and make it part of the minutes as well. But at this point, any other thoughts or maybe a motion?
Roger, I think I agree with you that I think it would be more impactful as a separate document instead of being lost in the minutes as as you and I've talked, yeah, I think that's the better way to approach. So at that point, I move to approve the minutes from last meeting.
I'll second.
There's a second. Any discussion, further discussion?
I think that's a good idea, Roger, to keep it separate.
All right.
Roger, I wanted to mention one thing before we went on to Stevenson about Lake County Partners. I think I mentioned this a few meetings back, but they did secure a grant, a federal grant, to spearhead a comprehensive economic development strategy for the county that would guide future development. And I did exchange emails with Bethany Williams of Lake County Partners, and they have issued an RFP to hire a consultant to begin the work of figuring out what kind of infrastructure Lake County needs in order to attract more business development. And I think we need to keep on top of that. We should, keep Jim Hogue in the loop. And, he's already got a number of projects written up because we have applied for certain grants with regard to tying in for municipal water supply with Buffalo Grove. And there's a number of other things we've done in the past. So he's got a number of things already developed, that we can try to plug in if Lake County Partners is going to spearhead some program to at least identify what projects are needed in the area. So I think we need to keep on top of that whole process and make sure we plug Jim Hogue into it. So, when they're ready to accept a list of what's needed, that we're there, and that we don't miss that opportunity.
Pam, so is the RFP obviously for the greater Lake County, do you know specifically if they're talking more interstate access from a transportation perspective or infrastructure? Was it only, could you clarify, was it only like traffic related infrastructure, transportation related, or
I think this is broader. I mean, they're in the process of developing criteria. So, Mina, I'll try to, get something that I could send around to everybody once they've developed a set of criteria of what they're going to include. But I think it's broader than transportation. I think it covers water sourcing and
It was all
water,
infrastructure then.
yeah, water
Okay.
quality, things like that tie into some things we've already looked at. So, maybe we can just plug in a lot of what we've done, that's why I think it's something we need to keep on top of, because we have a number of projects that are already identified, and whether they're going to be accepted in their master plan or not, we need to feed into that, because of course there's also going to be the possibility of federal grants at some point. And I think it's just all going to feed into one another. So we'll just I'll try to keep on top of this and make sure we know when this opportunity comes around, but they are starting to develop this list.
So from an RFP, I mean, I think for the broader regional, I think that's a great idea that we have a list of things that we can share with them for sure, especially if they're going to ask. My concern is we're one of the, we're not the tiniest, but we're one of the smaller ones where our impact probably won't be as great as some of the larger ones that they're probably going to try focusing on. But I think it's a great idea, Pam, and it's, kudos to you for keeping top of mind of that. I do think it's important that we have a list of infrastructure needs that are most important to our community and that we funnel that to Lake County partners. However, the cynic in me says that we will be at the very bottom, again, perception of we're one of the wealthiest communities in Lake County, et cetera. So I think some of the other poorer communities within the county are probably going to take precedence over us. But I think it's great that you're keeping that top of mind, and let's see, maybe they'll give us.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Mina. We're not going to be at the top of the list, but at least, you and I worked on a few things. If we could even include things we've already identified and worked on, it wouldn't, it wouldn't hurt, to try to get on that list.
Absolutely.
Because it's true. While we are one of the wealthiest communities, but we are in the process of trying to develop more of our business community, and I think that's part of what they're looking at from the standpoint of Lake County partners. What do you need? And it wouldn't hurt.
Yep.
Well, as Mina said, you really have done an excellent job of following on this. Can I kind of consider you a subcommittee of one to track this for a while at least, and bring it back at the point when it would be appropriate to try and have some input? That'd be okay.
Sounds good.
All right. That's good. Next thing on the agenda was to talk about the Stevenson High School project. And I see Trustee Kitzmeyer's online, but I also see that Matt Quinn, who's our speaker this morning, has checked in. And I'm thinking maybe that it would make some sense to move Matt up in the agenda and let us talk with him. And then the other things that really aren't that exciting to Matt, he can go on to the rest of his day. Is that reasonable?
Totally.
Okay. Matt, you've been here before. Thank you again for coming back. It's much appreciated. The situation is different, but we still have our core of restaurant business people who are a big part of Long Grove, and to the extent that you can give us a little bit of idea of what's going on now and what we might help them with, that would be appreciated.
Sure. Thanks, Roger. Thanks, Pam. Appreciate the opportunity to be here again and speak with everyone. I'm Matt Quinn, Assistant Director of Government Relations and Communications with the Illinois Restaurant Association. So I'll just get right into where things stand with, reopening, things the IRA is working on, and kind of the outlook for the next couple months. So right now we're in the bridge phase of the Restore Illinois plan, and we're on pace to reach phase 5 by June 11th. So phase 5 is going to be essentially no restrictions. This will be everyone, most businesses will be operating, at pre-COVID operations. So really looking forward to that coming in a few weeks, hopefully. So effective Friday, May 14th in the state of Illinois, occupancy continues to be determined by 6 feet of social distancing between parties. Restaurants and bars can continue to allow for a table party size of up to 10 or more than 10 if individuals provide proof of a vaccination or a negative COVID test. Indoor standing area capacity at restaurants and bars has increased to 30%, and outdoor standing area capacity has increased to 50%. And then social events like weddings, receptions, things like that can increase to 250 people indoors or 500 people outdoors. So really good steps in the right direction over the past couple of weeks. And I do want to note, so this is kind of where things get interesting. The beginning of last week, so last Monday, the governor and IDPH announced that the state of Illinois is going to align the state's executive order with the latest CDC guidance. Sorry, I got a puppy in the background. He's making a little noise. But so the governor made that announcement. They issued a new executive order saying that they're aligning with the CDC as it relates to masks and social distancing. What they didn't do is update any of the guidelines or FAQs as it relates to restaurants and bars. So we're kind of in a holding pattern. We are waiting to see in writing exactly how this applies to restaurants and bars. Some things we do know, which I'll talk through now, is that fully vaccinated individuals are not required to wear face coverings in most public and private settings. So that's including restaurants, bars, and event venues. As I said, the state has not yet updated its guidelines and FAQs, so it's a little frustrating. We've asked for several clarifications to ensure that restaurants and bars have necessary guidance. So I'd like to be able to kind of run through all those new rules yet, but I can't do so because I'm kind of just estimating what I think the state's rules are going to be. What I can do is lay out what the rules are in Chicago right now, which we know because the city of Chicago did issue new rules late last week that are very clear, laying out how vaccinations and relates to occupancy and social distancing and masking. And we know that the city can't be less strict than the state. So I think that gives us a good idea of where the state stands when everything is, issued. So I'll tell you what's going on in Chicago right now. So in Chicago, businesses are no longer required to mandate that customers wear masks inside their businesses. So the city very clearly came out and said that, something that the state really stopped short of. They said that fully vaccinated individuals don't need to wear masks. They didn't say businesses are no longer mandated to require that customers wear masks in their businesses. So if the city's saying that, we can estimate that that is going to be the state's position as well. Again, at the city level, businesses are encouraged, though not required, to verify that people are vaccinated if they don't wear masks. Businesses are encouraged, though not required, to keep mask policies in place through at least phase 5, especially if they don't want to verify that patrons are vaccinated. Businesses are also required to notify their customers prior to entry about their mask policy. So you can have a sign up, you can have a notice, come up during reservations, you can have an email that's sent to people before reservations, things like that. Just telling people what the policy is. The policy can be everyone is required to wear masks. The policy can be no one is required to wear masks. Policy can be only unvaccinated people are required to wear masks. So a lot of freedom for businesses, again, in the city of Chicago, which we think is likely going to apply to the state of Illinois as well. So businesses can choose to continue to require face coverings for all customers and employees, regardless of vaccination status. A couple other things is that bars, restaurants, and other establishments that allow for on-site consumption of food and alcohol can increase table and party sizes above the limit of 10 if all patrons are over the age of 16 and they're fully vaccinated. And then kind of the the big piece of news from Chicago last week is that establishments can operate without any COVID restrictions at all in their establishment, operate pre-COVID times, within any room or floor that has only fully vaccinated patrons and employees in that area. So if every one of your employees is vaccinated and everyone at a party or say a reception or maybe just a certain part of the dining room or a certain dining room is vaccinated, no restrictions at all, no social distancing, no masks. So that was a new announcement from the city again, which we're waiting to hear how the state is going to be issuing that similar guidance. So those are the basic components of the Chicago rules, and we're patiently waiting and anxiously awaiting what the state's rules are going to be. As soon as I have more information laid out in writing from the state, I'll make sure to get that over to Pam and Roger, and they can distribute to all of you. I'll take a minute. Any questions so far on that, or I could just continue? We can take questions at the end.
Matt.
Yeah.
So, I think that's great to see that the restaurants are being able to revive again and get back to almost full capacity, almost obviously, and kind of pre-COVID times. Interesting though how they're going to try mandating or showing or proving someone's going to be vaccinated unless people start walking around with their vaccine cards or pictures of, or so I think the whole world is trying to figure that part out. So I'm just curious. I mean, clearly city of Chicago and Illinois has not said, oh yeah, we're going to use VaxPass or whatever app or whatever. Like Clear is trying to do an app, with the vaccine pass, right? So just wondering if you guys get any input on any of that too.
Sure. Yeah. So it's definitely a lot of good steps in the right direction. The state already, and the city of Chicago has made clear, we know that there's no universal proof of vaccine. There's no one way to show it, one way to do it. So it's really up to businesses to determine their own policy. People can have their vaccine card that you show. People can have, a certain app as you referenced to show. And there's a lot of trust, a lot of honor system. And you don't want to be too intrusive either with any of this. So a lot of these, again, I keep referencing the city, and I apologize. It's just that's where we have it in writing, and we know, and it can't be any less strict than the state. So we can reasonably assume that the state's going to be following a similar path. But all of these provisions at the city level say these are optional. A business doesn't have to be checking vaccinated guests. They don't have to be asking anything like that anymore. But if they're choosing to, be able to operate without restrictions at all, or increase their occupancy, or take advantage of other little components of this that allow for more flexibility, then you need to be asking about or requiring people to show you that they're vaccinated. And then, there's an issue like, with privacy and with tracking information. Again, at the city level, they said you don't need to be keeping records or maintaining this information for any period of time. All you need to do is be able to track it in some way, shape, or form, so that if local health department comes out, buildings department, whatever it might be, you would be able to show, these people are vaccinated, this area is not. So wristbands, stamps, you could have just like a check mark, like log of how many people, things like that. It's positive in one way that our local and state authorities are given some more flexibility, and we're really moving where we need to be operating without restrictions. But then another, it's how do you do it logistically? How do you run things operationally? A lot of questions. So like I said, we have asked several questions of the state. Still waiting for all this in writing. But also, we've had 25 questions over to them about please lay out how this is supposed to work. And as soon as we have that info, I'll make sure to distribute it to the group as well.
Does anyone on the call know how Long Grove is handling this? Is it anything local they have to do, or are we following the Illinois recommendation?
I would say we are kind of leaving it to the business owners. We've been doing that all along. We talked about doing a mask mandate when it started, but that did not pass.
Right. So I could just have a few more updates for everyone, and then I can take a few questions at the end if that works.
Sure.
Great. So another program that I'm sure if you're in restaurants you're likely aware of is the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. So those grants were available from the Small Business Administration. The application portal actually closed last night after being open since the beginning of May. At this point, the program has gotten close to exhausting its $28.6 billion in funding, which is why SBA has closed the application portal for now. So we're working hard to get Congress to replenish that fund as soon as possible. The IRA, National Restaurant Association, and our partners around the country, we were lobbying for a $120 billion Restaurants Act last year and earlier this year. And the ultimate package that was in the American Rescue Plan was $28.6 billion. So, still a lot of need out there, and we're making our case known to our leaders in Congress. We spoke with Senator Duckworth about this last week. She's fully on board with replenishing the RRF, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. We have a petition right now to urge the White House and Congress to take action. You can find that info on our website, and I'll be sure to send that along to Pam after the meeting as well. A few other things that we're working on. We're working at the state level on a bill that would extend the allowance of cocktails to go in Illinois. It would also allow for credit card payments between retailers and liquor distributors, and allow restaurants and bars to offer one free alcoholic drink to patrons that show their proof of vaccination. So this is just another, program or initiative to just be promoting vaccinations, honestly. I mean, it's only going to be for a month. I think June to July, only from like 6 to 10 p.m. Communities can opt out if they want. You can only give one free. So we want to make sure we're doing this right, and it's not, a free-for-all for people to be going and getting free drinks all night, but just anything we can do to encourage vaccinations for our team members and guests, we want to be looking at. So we think this is a pragmatic idea, and it seems to have worked quite well in other states so far. New Jersey and others have done something similar. So looking forward to getting that bill over the finish line. And then, we're also encouraging the states to replenish the business interruption grant program with federal funding from the American Rescue Plan. Hopefully they'll be able to, start that program up again and be giving more grants out to businesses around the state that need it. We also, another piece of legislation we're working on would prohibit delivery services from delivering a restaurant's food or using their name or likeness without their consent. This has been a really big issue over the past several years, and so we passed it out of the Senate, hoping to get it out of the House by the end of this session. If not, we'll come back and get it done in veto session. It's still a priority for us and something that we think is, a common sense measure. So we're also hosting bi-weekly webinars with, folks giving different expert advice and resources for restaurants. Last week we had one on hiring and staffing ideas and best practices. The next one in June will be on navigating, different vaccination policies for employees and guests. We also have our pro bono legal network and dining design networks that are available to all operators, whether or not they're members of ours. Anyone seeking advice can reach out to those networks. We also have our the IRA Educational Foundation Employee Relief Fund is still awarding $500 grants to employees that have been negatively impacted by COVID. So if you have any of your team members that are still in need of assistance or been laid off for some time, certainly encourage them to apply. So generally speaking, with more reopening and vaccines and federal relief, warm weather, outdoor dining, starting to see some more light at the end of the tunnel. I think staffing is really the top concern. It's a problem across the country, and thousands of restaurants around Illinois, I'm sure in Long Grove, are trying to solve that problem as the state is still down, 100,000 jobs, 100,000 restaurant jobs, food service jobs across the state since pre-COVID. So, during the indoor dining shutdowns and, reduced capacity, some of our workers found work elsewhere. We're also competing against enhanced unemployment benefits, a lack of childcare options, some still closed schools. And also some folks just aren't ready to work in restaurants again until, COVID is behind us. So everyone's looking for help. You know, those that can are trying to increase wages and benefits in order to grow their teams again. We work closely with the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership on different programs that pair job seekers with restaurant job opportunities. We would encourage Long Grove to be working with the Workforce Development Board in Lake County as well. We also think it's really just another example of why we need comprehensive immigration reform. Immigrants have always been the backbone of the hospitality industry. We really need them now more than ever. So those are some things that we're seeing, we're working on. Glad to answer any questions. As always, please feel free to reach out to me or anyone on the IRA team anytime. And appreciate you having me today. If I can answer any questions, please let me know.
One thing that came to my mind was that, what's your spin? What's your feeling? What's your outdoor dining has seemed to be a big help to a lot of places where villages or cities have said, we're closing the streets so you can have restaurants outside and not worry about the restrictions. I had the sense that that also drove some business with people who just said, oh, it's kind of fun to dine out al fresco. Are cities shutting that down now? Are they walking away from that now the restrictions are being lifted?
I don't think so. I think it's here to stay. Definitely for this summer. I think people have really come to expect it and demand those outdoor dining options, especially for the folks that maybe aren't completely comfortable dining inside yet, and certainly dining when no one's got any masks and there's no social distancing, which will be allowed very soon, if not right now for areas that are fully vaccinated. But I think it was kind of new and a novel concept a lot of times last summer and then last fall, but I think people are demanding it and expecting it and looking forward to doing it again, especially when you have areas that have closed down streets and done different cool concepts and different fests and activations. I think it's just another way to encourage people to get out again, even if they aren't 100% comfortable, because they'll be outside. And I think it's pretty much been overwhelmingly positive. So we would certainly encourage different municipalities to continue their outdoor dining programs if they've seen them to be successful, because we certainly have on the macro level.
So that leads to, what about outdoor serving of alcohol? My understanding, and I may be wrong, is that the village in festivals allows at least beer to be served and people to walk around the village, which is not the normal whatever. You share anything in terms of what you've heard about how that's worked out well or problematically?
Typically, like what we've seen is that depending on how municipalities are trying to do it, they're trying to not create like a street fest, especially because in like a street fest scenario, you're walking around, there's no restrictions, there's mingling. At the height of COVID or last summer and last fall, that's not what most places wanted to do. So they'd set up outdoor dining areas. Sorry, dogs in the background. Set up your outdoor dining areas, but you'd be in one place. You'd be at one table. You have to be seated. You can be in this area and drink, but you have to finish your drink before you get up and walk around. That's what we've seen for the most part. But I know there's some variation around that.
Amy, I think you had a question.
I did not.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just wondering, in terms of our festivals, Amy, I guess what Matt is saying is, to still have these areas that are concentrated in terms of serving certain beverages probably works the best, right? Rather than something more open.
Yes.
Yeah, and just to clarify, if you are talking about a festival on like Friday and Saturday night only in this part of town on this closed down street, then certainly I think now that we're getting back to normal or more normalcy and pre-COVID, definitely encourage whatever has worked well for Long Grove and your areas in the past. I think because we're able to, before we were much more restricted by, what the state allowed and how, groups of people and mingling and moving around, that was really discouraged. So now that we're really getting back to reopen, I think a lot of places are ready to, bring back any of their, festivals and activations and summer, things they have going on in the summer. Would certainly encourage that. If we're talking more of the like throughout the week or every day type of outdoor dining setup where there isn't as much control, or I guess like a security presence or a certain fenced off areas and things like that, then you may want to just make sure that you have consistent rules every day that hey, you can enjoy your drink out here at these picnic tables or whatever it might be, but this isn't an open carry area, so don't go walking around with your cocktail out in the middle of the street. So it just, that was my just a clarification there.
Well, that was all very useful and extremely interesting, and we appreciate you giving us a little bit of your morning. Unless anybody else has anything to add.
Yeah, we really Matt, thank you so much for being there for us. The Illinois Restaurant Association has been a great advocate for the restaurant industry, and it's good to hear your views and the programs that you're involved with. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hope everyone has a great rest of the day, and please feel free to reach out to me anytime.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Bye-bye. All right. First item on the agenda, the Stevenson High School marketing project. I understand that there's some news to report, or I don't know how. Ann, do you have something, or Jennifer?
Hi, yeah, this is Ann. I've got it, and Mina can chime in also. So the marketing classes, we reached out, and we are going to have ongoing collaboration with them. Little, can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can. It's a little spotty, but yeah, we can hear.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm just on versus the computer. So there are 3 marketing classes at Stevenson. They all participated. We, the village, contacted all the businesses we had info for, and 13 of them responded, mainly downtown, but not totally. And it included folks that sell products, folks that sell services, and then also manufacturing. And they basically conducted research, and it helped them in a variety of ways on how to design research, how to work business, have business-like conversations, things like that we may take for granted, but they really appreciated a lot. And the 3 main areas they focused on were, what do you like about Long Grove as a place to do business? And that was the key one we were interested in terms of, what are the existing businesses? Why did they come here? Why do they like it? And then how do we reuse that for messages going forward to recruit more, right? The second was, what concerns do you have about Long Grove as a place to do business? And then the third would be, what next steps or recommendations do you have as a business for the village or others to make it a better place for your business? And they conducted the research in groups, and then they put together very quick presentations, kind of maybe about 5 pages each, describing what is the business, those 3 areas of research, and then anything else that they thought that was important. A couple of themes really came through very consistently. I would say on the what do you like about Long Grove, it was the character, the history, the charm, uniqueness. The word unique came through a lot, and then clearly the demographics. So in terms of, they came to Long Grove because of the demographics of who lives here and in the surrounding area. Another theme that came through in almost every single one of them, a lot of them, was the need to attract younger generation, rejuvenate the town, and even considering housing. A couple of them mentioned housing to be able to attract younger, whether that's millennials or younger, or places for teens to hang out. When they talked about the housing, certainly wanted to still have that prestige though. Third theme was more awareness of Long Grove overall, particularly all 7 days a week. So not just weekends, but the Monday through Friday. So some level of outreach. And then the fourth that was not as strong, but those that came felt strongly, it seemed, make it easier for businesses to locate in Long Grove and do something about the empty buildings that detract from the downtown. So probably not super surprising, but the younger generation thing came through in so many of them. That was really clear. The 7 days a week came through in many, and then that uniqueness in the demographics. So, I mean, overall, it's not necessarily earth-shattering, but I thought it was very solidifying. I think they did a really good job. They certainly appreciated the collaboration, and we will definitely be partnering with them in the fall. We do have a debrief session with the teachers scheduled for tomorrow, so we don't have news on that one yet, but to kind of understand from their standpoint the same kinds of things. What would we keep doing? What would we stop? And what should we add?
And how many businesses, I missed that, responded?
13.
Okay.
13. We gave them a couple of weeks. We contacted them with email and phone. We asked that they have a phone call. We wanted to make it a live interview with the students. We didn't want them to just farm.
I thought it was. I thought it was wonderful, and I think the students really got a lot of it. Got a lot out of it too, just from the presentation that they performed and did. I thought your summary, Anne, was spot on, so thank you. But it was really, it really solidified what we already knew about Long Grove and what drives people here. But I think the interesting parts were the areas of concern, a lot of it, and again, the fact that many of them were talking about a younger generation, or trying to have, and the fact that they mentioned residential, kind of a more, not as spatial, but more kind of the condensed living. I thought that was kind of perfect timing based on discussions we recently had with Brian. So, but the fact that, again, there were groups of 3 students for each company. And then, so they interviewed them, again, none of them talking to each other or us. And it was just fascinating to see that so many of the themes were so similar all throughout, and through all the different types of businesses. It wasn't like they were all retail, all food, or it wasn't like that at all. It was just some service, some manufacturing. I mean, again, the fact that all of them oddly came to the same conclusions or similar conclusions, I think is very telling. And I think hopefully that drives our future forward as a community. That's it.
The obvious here is thank you to them, and how can we do a more formal thank you to the people over at Stevenson? Because I'm listening to this and I'm going, how many maybe how many tens of thousands of dollars would the village have spent to a consultant to develop that kind of information? And I don't maybe scratch our heads and think about what we can do in a concrete way to tell the teachers and the students over there, thanks so much for what you did.
We definitely will be telling them during our debrief, and we thought about writing. Well, I don't know about concretely, but if you've got ideas, Rod, I think also one of the things I'd like to do, or that would be helpful, would be publicize some, not just for this in the village board, but the other businesses, be to encourage more participants in the future. And also, I was getting my mail, and I also got this flyer. Deer Park does flyers on deals and coupons and so forth. Melody Farm is now doing one just for a weekend in June. And, maybe there's something similar we could do, not just for a weekend, but 7 days a week or something like that. What would be the right way to do that? And kind of take action on these themes about outreach and awareness. The younger generation thing is certainly a longer arc thing. And also continuing to say, look, what we think about character and charm and uniqueness is coming through. I don't want to lose that. This is, if there's a big box or whatever we've talked about, that probably doesn't belong downtown. I don't think it's any surprise, but this helps solidify that too.
And hopefully we'll have more, because we're going to continue this collaboration with Stevenson. So once people see, I mean, again, as you mentioned, Roger, like you would pay thousands of dollars to get this from a consultant, and you know, we had free labor from, you know, granted they got credit for it at school, but you know, we had this, and I think it was a really, the teacher said it was a very positive experience from the students. I mean, to actually interact with the real business owner, I think was really valuable for them. So hopefully we'll have more opportunities next time for the other companies that didn't participate this time.
So when should we visit this again? Should we make a note to come back in the late summer and talk about what it looks like for the fall, or just?
Well, what can we do with the information that we've gleaned so far? I mean, I'd say that, you know, like we've got some momentum now, you know, and from a purely practical standpoint, you know, between the last meeting with Brian and then and this meeting with this marketing part information that we got from Stevenson, I mean, we're hearing some broader patterns. And again, I don't know, Jenny, Ann, and Rita, you know, what has to happen next? How do we bring this to, do we need to make a recommendation to the board, or can we just say, hey, board, look at the information we've gleaned? Because we talked about earlier too, Roger, just about the Brian, just the downloading of information from him, because exactly what he said is exactly kind of, not exactly, but very similar to what some of the points of concern were for our businesses. So I don't know what's the appropriate steps to take so that we don't lose this momentum.
I think there's two prongs to it. I mean, I think one would be for the village board. And again, not just even like what I wrote up, we'll put it in visually and send it around for tonight. So Jenny will be doing on this, or I will, or both of us. You know, so that I would certainly reach out back to the full list of businesses and share this with them. And then the question of board and EDC partnership, what would next steps be? And a couple of these are awareness, something you can start in activating quickly. Things like attracting younger generation, that should be a little bit, it will be longer and will be more thoughtful, hopefully. I don't know what the other stuff with Brian, but if there's a way to, if there's a way to link them together in some sort of action step or ideas for next discussion, I just wouldn't just drop it. I would come back with ideas. You know, what action should we take?
Can we, so Roger, do we need to set up a time for, like, you know, schedule this as an agenda item maybe for the next meeting, or we do this later if we have enough time during open discussion or new, because I don't want to lose momentum.
Will we have a document that we can look at that summarizes all of this kind of business? I mean, my thought would be to have that in front of us and then plan a discussion of where might we go with this. I think that's right. And maybe not next meeting. I think maybe 2 meetings from now, give us a little time to digest this and a little time to get it produced. I'm hoping that it will generate an article in the Bridge about village cooperates with high school, blah, blah, blah. And then the other piece of that is that to the extent that we can create something that's permanent and reachable by the outside world, one thing that you can give those students is a piece for their portfolio, because most of them are going on to school somewhere, and it certainly doesn't hurt to have on their application participated intense marketing research, blah, 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 and look, here's a website linked to where we were thanked for doing this kind of business. It should generate something for them, and by doing so, it generates something for us. Do you think Bobby will put up something in the?
We'll definitely respond. We'll definitely suggest that to her.
Okay. And then maybe talk to the teachers and ask the teachers what the village could do to create an authentic looking document that they can include with their application or whatever. Call them part of some kind of ad hoc village marketing committee thing for the spring of 2021. So they can reference it on their resume, just as they could just as they could say National Honor Society or Stevenson lacrosse team or something.
That's really cool, Roger. I wonder what wording, like just like a certificate or something that then they can refer to.
Give a name to the group and make it sound, resume builders get creative about describing their experience. But seriously, talk to the teachers, see what they think, and let's keep this on our agenda as well, to do something for these students to make it worthwhile. And again, make it more likely to attract more students in the fall to want to do this kind of thing. I mean, I'll ask my wife. When my kids went to high school, my wife, who was a teacher, ran a shadowing program where she worked with the teachers up there and placed students in with people in the real world in their senior year. And they were out with doctors or realtors or whatever for a half a day and coming back and reporting on it. And, my daughter decided she didn't want to be a medical doctor after spending a half a day with some doctors. But anyway, anybody else, anything else on this? I think this is a really positive thing this has turned out to be, and I think we can make it even more than it is so far. Thoughts?
Can everybody hear me? This is Jenny.
Hi, Jenny, we can hear you.
Can anybody hear me?
Jenny,
Yes,
we can hear
Jenny.
you.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'm just driving and I'm with a bunch of trucks and I'm in and out of, I catch every third word you guys say, but I just wanted to thank Anne for giving the presentation. I thought it was a great collaboration. I would like to see it in the bridge. Also, if possible, like a link on our website. And I don't know if it's possible to just to list the names of all of the kids that were involved. But we'll talk more when I have better reception.
Good idea. All right. Next agenda item is the how to do it videos. And Pam, you want to tell us how that's going with the popcorn people?
Yes, Eric Waller is interested in doing an interview, and we're going to look for a mutually agreeable date and time. He was open to the idea, as I mentioned to you, Roger, of actually sitting in on one of our EDC meetings and doing it that way. But we were thinking that that's maybe not the best way to do it. Kind of keep these things consistent the way we've handled them in the past, and set up a one-on-one with Kevin. Is that?
Kevin shared his Google schedule and he's open to the whole thing. So yeah, it's all we need is for the popcorn guy to give us his time,
Okay.
and we'll set it up.
So we'll work on that. He's very willing to do it.
All right. One of the things that's on the agenda is we had talked about finding people to edit the drone footage that has been created. Is that any further along? I think that was Jenny and the village engineers, and let's hold that one until
Maybe we should table that until Jenny has better, maybe next call.
Excellent idea. We've been talking about developing a list of business brokers and developers. We might be able to just add as a regular broadcast point. I don't know how far that's gotten along. Erwin, you were kind of working on that one.
Yeah, maybe I can get some input on that. I don't know where to get the list from. That's not an area that I'm very familiar with.
Erwin, I can help you with that, because I did talk to the Schaumburg Business Library, and they've got a something we could tap into.
Oh, okay, great. So Pam, maybe what we can do is we can talk separately and also come up with some action steps on what we're going to do with the list and our approach.
Sounds good.
EDC. Okay, I'll shoot you an email on that. We'll set up a time.
Sounds good. And I guess that also feeds into that the TIF brochure. We're not ready to do anything with that yet, right?
That's the next 3 items on the agenda. I played around with the colored ink to just suggest that we're doing things, and because the village is in this transition period with the interim village manager, it's really kind of impractical to try and move forward on these things. I think we've gone as far as we can go for right now, but I don't want to lose track of them. So the CRM software, the TIF brochure, the script, the really good script that we went through last week, and I can't read my own whatever, and the distribution. All these things are things that we are poised to do more that's concrete with, assuming that we can get a buy-in from the trustees and from the village staff. But for now, anybody have any thoughts on what we need to do right now, or is it safe to just put these on hold for a bit?
Yeah, Roger, I thought your change in color font I thought was helpful, but because it's stuff that we're just waiting for, we're waiting on the board, obviously, during this transition time. So I think leave it on there for a future once it's done. But yeah, I don't see why we need to belabor it right now when we can't do anything else with it.
Thanks for doing it. I'm sorry. I said, thanks for doing it, Roger. And I thank you for putting in, well, what's the next step? I think the big thing is, yes, what is the next step? Get a new village manager in, and then how to outreach.
I'm reading between the lines, but I understand there's an emergency meeting. Well, there's a special meeting of the village board on Wednesday night, and I'm assuming that has something to do with the village manager being hired. So hopefully we're getting close, and all that moves forward. So we've got the design of the EDC microsite and the various websites that have been shared with us. And it's on the agenda to talk about what we've seen and where we might go with this. Anybody want to start the discussion?
I don't know. I did look at a number of those Unicode websites that were distributed by Denise. Thank you, Denise. And I don't know. I mean, they look like they were primarily not that it discounts them, but in Texas and Oklahoma and Georgia. And I don't know. The demographics look to be a little bit different. So I'm not sure. I mean, I guess we could look at the features, just in a kind of in a vacuum to see what might be the most user-friendly and easy tabs to use for the EDC. But I don't know. I mean, you kind of get distracted by the fact that they're not, I don't know how relevant all that is. It would be nice if they had worked on some things that were kind of a little more local and maybe had a little more of a similar demographic profile. It could be helpful.
Pam,
now, I
I would disagree with that because I think the whole point of it was just to look at how other people are doing, not, you know, what their website looks like versus demographics. I mean, I thought the whole point was to say, hey, we like this splash of here, we like the color here, we like the way they presented the demographics here versus, oh, well, they have 3 million in population and we only have 8,000. Like, I don't think that's relevant at all. I thought some of them had really good, just like very catchy. The fact that Municode has some of the capabilities I didn't think they had, I thought was kind of the point because we're stuck with Municode and, you know, good, bad, or indifferent, whatever. But I thought it was more of the, forget the content, ignore the content. I was looking more at the spacing and what's prettier, what steps out, what pops in order to get our information across. I mean, maybe I was wrong. Is that not what we were trying to propose to do?
Well, maybe it would make sense to go through it, you know, just 2 or 3 at a time and, you know, analyze them a little more closely. Because I found that very hard too, to go to look at, you know, 8 or 9 of these websites and try to navigate them and try to understand what they were trying to accomplish. I wonder if we could, you know, Roger, assign everybody like 2 or 3 to look at next time and point out some things that they like and rank them.
Could we just do it can we just do it? Can we like put it up right now and share a screen and try to do it that way? I mean, I just feel like, I hate to say it, but this whole website thing has drawn on for way too long. Like we haven't gotten anything done. And so I feel like, let's just, you know, let's just do this. And if it means 10 minutes and let's pop up 3 now, then fine. Those are the 3, or, I mean, again, that's my suggestion because I'm sick of seeing this on the agenda personally.
I'm trying to think of, well, my proposal is to put this off again until the next meeting because that will give me the time to learn how to and be ready to pop up 3 windows in my screen and then share my screen.
I mean, I can do it right now if you want, because
bless you. I'm about to share control with you because I just don't trust myself to find the screens and probably not. You get the screens ready, I'll find the thing that lets you be the meister of the.
Because I just think that, you know, like, why not do it now and let's get it done. And hold on, let me see if I can pull up the email. Otherwise, I'll just have to type it, which is fine. I don't care. You know, I'll just type it. Okay.
All right, your co-host, you should be able to share your screen.
I will share my screen, so hold on. Okay, I'm just gonna go down the list unless someone has one that they specifically wanna see. Can you guys see the city of Brookshire, Texas?
Yes.
Okay, so, and specifically, hold on, she said, click on the economic development quick links. So here, you see, I like that there's a quick link right here. I thought that was beneficial. Can you all see that on the bottom right? And then you click it and it goes. This kind of looks similar to what we already have, this stuff on the top. Can you see me when I'm scrolling over, like the different things? But
in substance, we have all those things.
Right, we do. And but part of it I thought was presentation. I thought that first link in was an easier way to, instead of scrolling through, click, click, click to get to EDC, it was a quick button in the very front. So, and then this is obviously a click, click, and sometimes it's the number of clicks, right? Sometimes it's like their information I didn't think was as fabulous, but I liked about this one, I liked their, what do you call it? I like the first button introduction into. I thought it was important that this one, they had a map of where they are. If I was this organization, I would have zoomed out a little bit more to show the broader scope of where exactly Brookshire, Texas is, because people don't know Texas, or people are geographically challenged usually. So hold on, let me see if I can find another one.
Hey, Mina.
Yeah.
This also, like, it visually looks different than the main site, right? Kind of colors and stuff. So it looks like you're in this very specific area. Is that correct?
Yeah, hold on, let me go back to, hold on, where did it go? I was trying to get back to the main website.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take you off.
Oh, no. I agree with you. It was, good Lord. Yeah, it was a different, there we go. Yeah, because this one has the blues and then the other one had the yellows and the maroons. But I thought this was like, what was great about this front page of their website, this is their homepage, was, you can just easily get to the agendas and the minutes, whatever forms or permits. I mean, like, it was like the most important things were right there and easily accessible instead of having to click 6 times to get to a page or to try to find it.
And that's much like Long Grove, actually, with the ribbon around the bottom, with the agendas are down the bottom, and so it's, But then the business one for Long Grove is tucked away up on the top, and it's, at least in my mind, not exactly clear in terms of that's where economic development lives. Here, the economic development block has been made much more prominent as an important part of what you're looking at. I think Long Grove could do a better job of saying, hey, this is something that's important to us. And, yes, where the garbage collection comes from is important, but economic development is something that we rank highly in terms of our priorities. So there's a subtle message maybe in the Long Grove website. But the other thing that I always saw grab me when we looked at these websites was motion. And I don't know, motion is expensive in terms of load speed, I guess. So to the extent that, like these, you pop and bang, you're there and you see the pictures, they load very fast. And I know some of the local sites, the surrounding villages, you pop in and you get motion, a little video of some attractive part of the village. I don't know how valuable that is, but it's certainly a differentiator.
So I pulled up a second site. This is the Burnett, Texas site. And I thought this one was not as easy to navigate to get to this location. However, to get to this economic development page. However, I thought the things to point out were right here, their demographics, where it was just words and simple little icons that show, what the median age is, what their average household income is, and what their retail population. I think that was just an easier, clean way to discover or, and identify what the different information is from a attracting business perspective. Because we are trying to attract more retail, this is a very retail specific type of demographic information page that I think would be very beneficial for companies looking to do more retail activities in Long Grove. That's what I liked about this page. I did not love a lot of what they did initially, but this was one of the things that I thought was a beneficial one about this one.
Seriously, on that page where they have the retail trade and the median age and are those maneuverable, manipulable numbers in the sense that if we were putting one of those up, would we legitimately hurt ourselves by saying, well, the demographic or the income is this very, very high number. The median age maybe wouldn't be that great if we just looked at the people in Long Grove because we're kind of an old community. And if we expanded that one out to median age within 10 miles to grab, would that be a legitimate way to?
Roger, I think very, very valid. I'd say that average household income shows discretionary income, basically more than anything else. And so if you're a high-end luxury, anything, that's what you're looking for. But I think most retail that typically opens isn't that high end. But again, it shows our discretionary income. Our median age is what really, I think, hurts us more than anything, which is where I think, again, the marketing tie-in with Stevenson and the Brian about having a typically condensed living has younger generations. We're not saying do tenement housing, but we're saying like again, Melody Farms or that really nice complex, I think it's called The Point off of 45. and it's super high-end luxury townhomes. I think that's the kind of thing that would be attractive. But again, that would help lower our median age. I mean, again, census has already happened, but if we can get data internally, we can change that. And I agree with you that for things that are beneficial to us, we would increase our radius of where we want to go. So I think from that perspective, yes. Yeah, I mean, I think we can modify that to fit us. But I was thinking that these are the things that are important to show and delineate on our website if we're going to change it. Hold on, I was trying to get to the other one here. So here's Bluefield. Can you guys see this one? The Bluefield, West Virginia.
Yeah.
Does it show for you? Okay. And then if you click on there, again, they had that little economic development button in the front. And then, and you know, theirs is a little bit less, like, I didn't like all the moving and because you can't see it when you're just like scrolling through, like there's a delay. I thought that was a little bit negative, but that was my personal opinion. But you can just see what they're doing, but it's cute that they have these little buttons, I think, you know, so that you can, you know, here, enroll in our entrepreneurs bootcamp. Like that would be nice. I mean, obviously that would have been great for the PPP, but whatever. Let's see, hold on. Let's get the other ones. So there's the Woodstock. So Woodstock, again, the only one in Illinois that we had. I personally didn't love their website, but again, whatever.
This mimics the Long Grove one. They got the same doing business thing up here at the top, which I don't think is a really clear announcement of what, you know, is not economic development. And yet that's where economic development is tucked away in the Long Grove site.
And this is where I thought, again, it was like click and click. It's a 2-click to get to economic development, which again, I mean, it's fine. But they do have bigger buttons that we don't have, like demographics. Like that's a good button to have if you wanted to specifically, you know, point out that demographics are important. I think what's negative is.
Yeah, Mina, I thought that page was very good. I mean, again, you know, apart from the fact that, you know, maybe the demographics are kind of similar and some of the things they refer to, like in the county, they're in a different county in McHenry, but we could just plug in all the Lake County stuff. But I thought like the property search, the demographics, the incentives, just the simplicity of those buttons and the things that we can include in them are the embedded links, I think would be an easy thing for us to follow. I did really like that from that standpoint. And it might be, you know, not that it has to be in Illinois, but I think because we're a little more familiar with the fact that it is a town that's similar and that they're trying to attract similar types of businesses and they're projecting themselves in a similar way. I mean, they're not emphasizing things that might be negative to them, you know, like let's say our population averages whatever. Or, I mean, it's there, it's all there. But I think I like the fact that it's organized in a very simple, direct fashion. And, you know, I like the 4-button approach. I like that it's easy to organize, easy to put together. And if you go in there, they do have a lot that relates to like resources that are available through the county, which I think we would have to do as well. I mean, I just think they have some things that we could use as a good outline for ourselves.
I thought this one, what was great about this Woodstock one was they had this made in Woodstock, which again, people who don't know Woodstock other than maybe for that movie, the Groundhog Day movie. But I thought this was great, like about this Boston pickles. Like I didn't know that. I just thought that would be a good way for us to also show some of our companies and you know, I just thought that was very clever that they did that. And then here, so we're down to our last one. Hold on. And then the last one is Texas. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I like the clear contact information on there too. Again, like it's a clear action. That was just on the Woodstock one.
Right here. Yes. This Garrett Anderson one right here. Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's my biggest pet peeve when I look at economic development websites. I mean, for work, is when people have a contact us and you have to enter in information and they have to reach out to you. That never works. People will usually walk away from that. So I like that they had Garrett Anderson's information here because that is most important. And for us, since we don't have an ED director, it could be the village manager or it could be Roger Goebel or, you know, but whatever our step-by-step that we did, the process, we can put whoever we should be calling. I think it was a village manager.
That's the message I call.
Tina, can you
I will return your call my earliest convenience. You know.
Could you go to the top again of Woodstock and that tab that said start a business?
Okay. Okay.
All right, let's just scroll down there a little bit. So they've got
5 steps.
5 steps. I like that. I mean, maybe we could direct, you know, what we've already done in terms of, you know, this, you know, the steps that we put together that Mike Elliott spearheaded. Maybe we could kind of graft something like that into this design of starting a business, the steps.
I think the infographic that they was better than all the words. But I agree. I think the starting a business tab was a good idea. But yeah, I think the infographic sort of that I think that Michael and Erwin put together, I thought was great. I think we could add that in here. And then the last one was Corinth, Texas. Again, they have these call out buttons. And then doing business and then economic development.
My God.
What?
That's a lot of clicks.
It is. It's a lot of information, and that's where it gets lost. But they do have, yeah. Now Texas is again different animal. They have type A and type B communities and EDCs and CDCs, and they have a lot of money in Texas because they do sales tax on everything. And that's where all the incentive money comes from for projects in Texas. So, but it's cool to see, you know, they have a specific, and then it calls out a different color. Like if you hover over EDC projects, it goes red. Available properties, it goes red. I thought those were, again, the fact that I didn't realize Unicode had this type of capability, I think is, it's cool to see. But yeah, I mean, and that was it. And I didn't mean to hijack, you know, kind of what we were doing today, but, you know, I'm like, I thought the whole point was, what did we like about each of the pages or what didn't we? And, or what could we glean? Because we know what we, I mean, this is what Unicode did. And you can see how vastly different each of the different communities' websites look like. And so I thought some looked a lot more like this one. Bluefield looks a lot more sophisticated. And again, I'm assuming, hopefully they would have only sent us stuff that, you know, we have in our capabilities and our plan, our cost plan with them. But I thought this was, I'm sorry?
I mean, I was just going to say this. These are actually sites that have purchased the upgrade, because that was what we originally had spoken of
right.
Because the buttons and the different colors and the hovering and highlighting, all those types of things, those are for like within that upgrade within both the microsite and like this Bluefield, they probably have also an overall upgrade because of those buttons on the bottom. Because that was one of the first things when we first established the website. I was looking at all the different buttons and I'm like, ooh, but she said that's within.
You know, one thing we could consider doing is asking Unicode for like a kind of a cost estimate, you know, on these various different.
We did, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah, we did, I believe. Yeah.
We did.
We decided that was a little bit too much.
I think it was like $5,000 or.
It's $4,000 for each, like the EDC microsite would be $4,000, and then it's $600 annual fee. So the $4,000 obviously is a one-time. And then if you want to do the other microsites, like, or just kind of the overall, like say the home page, then that would be another $4,000.
Well, I guess what I'm wondering, and we could just talk to them again, Denise, is there a variation? I mean, if Woodstocks is very simple, let's say, and is that 4,000? Is it more to do something like what, you know, Brookshire did, or what, you know, we kind of need to know what we're looking at for this Bellmead, Texas, any of these that they gave us. Is it a generic price, or how does that work? I mean, maybe we could dig into that a little bit.
It does appear to be a generic price. Sort of dig into like, okay, what if we just wanted to add this, and she said it doesn't work that way. So I think the 4,000 is sort of the minimum of probably additional things you could do on top of that, but that's sort of the minimum to add those components to the site.
And yeah, maybe we could just clarify that they're all of them are available. All these formats are available for that $4,000 fee, or would any of these be even a greater upgrade? You know,
I believe, confirm, but I think that's why she sent these ones in particular, was because of the fact that they were the upgrade that we were looking at.
Okay. Yeah. So these could all fit in that $4,000 budget.
If we had a $4,000 budget. Right. Because we don't.
I'm thinking about return on investment. I'm thinking about, all right, it's good to spend money to have a really nice website, but given the website that we have, what's the likelihood that we will really get a big hit in terms of people coming in from spending that money on the website? And my suspicion is that it's remote. We can do a lot.
Again, I'm going to go back. Yeah, Roger, if I could just comment on that question. You have to promote the website in other channels, right? And so, you know, the idea of sectioning up the Bridge newsletter and publishing it, you know, one article, 2 articles a week on various social media channels, including one that's business focused like LinkedIn, right? As you get that traffic, that's what's going to drive people to the website, because you're absolutely right. You can have the best website in the world, and if no one goes there and sees it, you're not going to get any ROI. But if you drive traffic to the website, that's where you're going to start seeing it pay off.
I could add, I completely agree with you, Mike. One thing that is nice that we now have baseline data, that's kind of where we started, you know, from the previous website, and we can see that we had a huge jump in usage on the website, you know, since moving to this platform. But we'll also now have data to show, now that we've added Facebook and Nextdoor, you know, to sort of see what happens with that. Because you're right, Mike, in the way with the newsletter, I could see like spikes in times that we put things in the newsletter about the website, and you can see, you know, that there was an increase in usage, you know, so it really does correlate.
So we have to find that Facebook group for Northwoods developers or something.
I want to go back to Brian's comment last month about, and I may be paraphrasing this, it's difficult to do business in Long Grove. So how do we change that perception? How do we tie all this in with social media? Because our customers are those developers and businesses, okay? So how do we change that perception? You could have the greatest website, but if you can't change the perception of the buyer, what good is it? So I'd like to sort of address that at some point. Also, how do we change that perception? Because it was such a negative comment. It really caught me off guard in that regard.
We kind of knew that. I mean, Erwin, from the get-go, I mean, I've always said that Long Grove has always had a negative perception in the economic development world. I mean, from a business perspective, because it was, even as a residential, I mean, again, some of the hoops we had to jump through when I was building my house was, I'm doing that as a resident. What are we putting our businesses through? And Mike Marr had that same comment when we had him talk to us. So I think part of it is, I think we're doing some of the right steps is the flow chart with what the steps are to start a business. And then if we throw in timeframes within each of those and we follow them, I think that's how we negate our image. And we tell people like Brian, hey, because Brian works for CBRE, and if we can get Brian and his client to actually come and we are helpful. He told me when I first talked to him, he goes, wow, I have never had anyone from Long Grove or any village really ever contact me about one of my sites and how we can help you. He's like, Long Grove has never had that image. So again, I think stuff like that, I think our outreach is a way to dispel some of that negative image. And I think, and I think showing that we are open to possibly, like maybe entertaining the idea of different types of zoning or different types of uses for certain of our open available land, maybe would also be a more pro business. And I think the fact that we have another TIF shows that we're being pro business. But I do think for my clients, it's the uncertainty of timing, how long it takes to permit, how long before they can get shovel into the ground. That for us, clearly, I always want to know what the zoning is and what the uses are. But if once we're past that, if it's going to take me 18 months to get a permit through, you're out. Whereas I think that is the first thing we need to say is we will get it done. We're a small community. We can get it done in 6 months, 8 months, 3 months. Okay, 6 months and 8 months is too long. 3 months to 6 months, much better, because we have limited windows of being able to dig ground in Illinois because we have winter. That's where some of the southern states do better. So that's I totally agree with you, Erwin. I think that is.
So part of the website should be,
we're open for business.
We can work with you. We're right. We're open for business. We can work with you. Maybe we have to emphasize that.
Yeah. I think
in the website.
You're right on.
But can we, the EDC, legitimately emphasize we're really friendly for business here? Come on down.
No, not until we can get a village manager and first, I think the fact that our first step is a village manager and we don't have one. I mean, if we can get the village manager and the board to agree that we want to be more business friendly or perception, and these are the right steps to take, then sure. But you're right. Is it a reality?
Erwin, after I heard Brian, I went back and I've heard people say, well, look at the development plan, the long-term development plan that the village has. And it's there, it's been there for 20 years, and it's a 100-page document, 100 plus pages. You know how much of it is devoted to business development? 1 page. And on that 1 page, it talks about, I'm not making this up, talks about maintaining the bucolic nature of Long Grove. It's very much about keeping the McMansions. And I'm not saying that's a wrong thing. I love the bucolic countryside here, but in terms of development, the only other thing they have is that it's good that we've got these stringent regulations, because that saves a lot of wasted time with people trying to ask us to change and wasting time on, it is not in the least friendly to development, and it is to some degree reflective of the attitude that the village board has toward this. Look at the reactions toward any kind of
change.
Well, the South Tip, the whole idea of having something other than nice retail stores along Route 83 by Coffin Road is running up against the information that Brian gave us last week about the likelihood of retail development anywhere in the near term.
But I mean, Roger, totally agree. Like, I think Brian mentioned that during his discussion that he said the reason that his client pulled out was because his attorneys talked to others' attorneys and they were like, oh no, don't go to Long Grove. It's really tough to do anything in Long Grove. And so now I think maybe we invite the attorneys back, like host a breakfast for all the attorneys to be like, hey, we're really friendly. Like, I mean, again, once we can show them that we're not difficult, that we're not petulant, we're not whatever it is we are. And again, I think we need to, I know that we just passed a new comprehensive plan, 5 years ago, 4 years ago. again, some of it's been outdated since then. I mean, we have no information. I don't know what I mean, is there a possibility to revisit something like that? I mean, are these recommendations we can make to the board? I don't know. Is that within our little purview of allowed and what's not allowed to recommend?
I think we can say whatever we want to say, but doing it in a way that doesn't offend people. You don't want to go and say, "Look, you're all a bunch of short-sighted idiots," but you do want to say times have changed, and we're gathering some information that says this is a significant change, and maybe the village ought to consider that going forward. Yeah. So this is where I think that we should work on putting together what Brian told us in a form, and then passing that on as a memo to the village, and frame it in terms of future development of the village and concerns that the EDC has in terms of where the village is going.
Yeah, I mean, maybe at some point, there would be the ability to revisit that part of the comprehensive plan. I guess it's just one chapter, right, 12? And, in there, you identify areas that are available for development, but maybe we need to look at that again. Those are the areas, but then is the scope broad enough? And how do we don't have to look at the whole comp plan, but just that one section, and dealing with what's available to develop, but maybe look again at what are those, does that need to be broadened?
You're right, Pam. That's a great approach. I mean, we're not saying change everything, but maybe change one portions that have been since outdated or that new information has arisen, such as like traffic, some of the traffic and IDOT recommendations or recommendations against like ingresses and egresses. I think things like that, when things change, and again, I'm not saying change the whole document, but I think we need to show that we're with the times and moving with what is kind of top of mind for every other community around us that is growing fabulously. And we're not.
Here's another argument. You could say, what's the harm in letting the land stay vacant? We like, the open vistas of land that's just sitting there with trees and grass and whatnot on it. But when you consider the way that the schools and all the other municipal whatevers are supported, they're supported by real property taxes. And, I think we all know how real property taxes work. They take up the assessed value of everything that's in the area, and then they set their budget and say, all right, we're going to spend that pro rata based on the value of the land. And to the extent that we got land sitting down here by Sunset that's agricultural and pays zero tax, that means that money that might come from a fully developed piece of land there isn't there. And where does that money come from? It comes from all the houses across the street and their valuation. So that there is a very real indirect cost to everybody in the village when we just let land sit there vacant. And that kind of gets lost in the discussion too.
Well, we could try to solve the world's problems or solve our own. But I do think that I think this is like one of those working sessions we should put into, like, as an EDC, let's come up with some recommendations, like, hey, using Stevenson and Brian's comments, and then using kind of data that we have, and knowing that we already have a comp plan with uses and allowable uses, and knowing that there are other things so what do we know? And then let's try to put 3 or 4 bullet points maybe that we can recommend to the board, just to say, like, this is what we're supposed to be doing, right? Like, making recommendations to the board in order to create more economic development in our community. And I think for us to do that, it's dispelling our image that we're really hard to work with and that we're not business friendly. maybe changing some of our comp plan and zoning or whatever based on existing uses because it's outdated now. And without the ingress and egress required from IDOT, there's no way that we're being, that we're going to get huge big box retailers at 83 and 53. And I don't know, like, I would love to see this as a working session because we could probably talk for an hour on this. And I think it's important. Can we do that for next session?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can. Let's plan on that because it is, I mean, this is core to what we're doing. If in fact, the village wants to have more retail for sales tax and the retail development market is dead for the next 1,000 years, what's going on here? So yeah,
well,
let's
if we have more residential in a TIF, I am going to say that will still raise the assessed valuation. I mean, so we will still see an increment that we don't have there right now. I mean,
and that will persist for how many years?
Yeah, we're still going to bring, again, because it's part of our TIF, we're going to see the incremental tax generated even from residential on a TIF property. It's not going to be maybe as great, but considering our retail hasn't done that well anyway, other than a Menards. But I think, again, if we can focus on our TIF areas, that would help. Or actually, shoot, focus anywhere. I don't care.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. We'll put this down for the next meeting. And
I just realized I'm actually traveling. I'm out of town. So but I will try to join that one anyway. If it's so.
Well, let's see where it goes. We'll see. We may have a new village manager by the next meeting. We may need to spend some time talking about that and whatever.
So for that session, what should we be thinking about in the interim?
Well, if it were me, I'd give everybody homework and I'd say, write down and circulate your ideas about changes that might be appropriate for the village in terms of zoning and treatment of businesses.
Okay. Send that to Denise to put together a master list.
Send it to Mina and share it to everybody else because I don't want to make it in the village's documents.
Okay. Okay, Roger.
And then
I think we should also look at all of the maps of the different areas where we're trying to develop. So all the TIF, like I brought up the map last time on the screen share, but it's in the comprehensive plan. But all of those maps just to show where we have ingresses and egresses to show and what types of uses they are. I think that would be beneficial too to look at in preparation for the next call.
I'll create some kind of a questions to be answered for all of us to work through and circulate that. I think we can, my understanding of open meeting acts is as long as we're not taking any official action of any kind, we can talk all we want between each other and pass ideas back and forth. So let's pass the ideas so that we're not coming to the meeting cold and just trying to invent it all that morning. It makes it much more productive, I think. Anybody else? Anything else? Motion to adjourn, maybe?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved in second. Any opposition? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all.